purge in Iran after devastating strikes on nuclear facilities. Tehran is carrying out mass executions and arrests of people suspected of having ties to Israeli intelligence services. It is already known that at least 6 people have been executed and 700 detained across the country on charges of espionage. The local authorities were stunned by the scale and precision of the assassinations of top military officials and nuclear scientists, and they suspect that information passed to Tel Aviv played a key role in this. The Iranian authorities have also increased pressure on journalists, including those working abroad. There is information that the relatives of one BBC presenter were held hostage and forced her to resign because of her coverage of the conflict between Israel and Iran. Many fear that these measures are an attempt to suppress dissent and tighten control over the population. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei, in his addresses to the nation, continues to insist on victory over Israel and the United States, claiming that the recent strikes on nuclear facilities allegedly did not cause significant damage. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump stated that next week they will hold talks with the Iranian side. CNN reports that the current president's administration wants to offer Iran $30 billion to help restore its economy and lift some sanctions in exchange for a complete halt to uranium enrichment. But in Iran, officials are officially rejecting the talks. Meanwhile, in the United States, they're looking for ways to limit members of Congress's access to intelligence data. This was stated by the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, Mike Johnson. Earlier, President Donald Trump posted on Truth Social that it was Democratic Party members of Congress who leaked to journalists the U.S. intelligence data about the consequences of American strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. What was contained in this data, and why is it being taken so seriously at the White House? We'll discuss this with TSN's own correspondent in Washington, Olga Koshelenko. Ols, congratulations. So, what conclusions did American intelligence draw after the strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities by the U.S. Air Force almost a week ago? And why did the release of these findings so anger President Trump?
Greetings, Allo. Yes, indeed, this week a number of media outlets, first CNN and the New York Times, and then others, published the initial findings of Pentagon military intelligence regarding the results of the strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. And the results are rather modest, according to these publications. The analysis of satellite images apparently indicates that Iran's nuclear program was not destroyed, but merely set back in time, and only by a few months. And that the stockpiles of enriched uranium needed for the production of nuclear weapons were not destroyed. Moreover, they were removed even before the Americans began the bombing. Another important element of production is the centrifuges, which are used for uranium enrichment. According to intelligence, they are also mostly intact. And this contradicts the public statements of the President and the Secretary of Defense of the United States that Iran's nuclear program was completely and entirely destroyed. These reports started to emerge precisely when the U.S. President arrived in The Hague for the NATO summit. And at that time, Trump posted a whole series of angry messages on Truth Social, claiming that the media outlets which published this information were spreading fake news and that, according to rumors, the journalists would be fired. Let's listen to a few of his posts.
Fake news CNN is disgusting and incompetent. Some of the dumbest hosts in the business. Rumor has it that the failing New York Times and fake CNN are going to fire the reporters who made up fake stories about Iranian nuclear sites because they got everything wrong. Let's see what happens.
So, at first, President Trump actually denied these media reports about the consequences of the strikes, calling them fabricated and fake, and saying they discredit the professionalism of the American pilots who carried out the strikes. But then he made a post saying that it was the Democrats who leaked the classified information. I'll quote now, "The Democrats are the only ones who leaked information about the grid flights over nuclear sites in Iran. They must be held accountable." End of quote. From this post, it doesn't follow at all that Trump admitted the media reports about the modest results of the bombings were real. Today at the briefing, by the way, he once again confirms that Iran's nuclear infrastructure has been destroyed and cannot be restored in the near future. It is destroyed. It will take years before they can start again. And I really think that this is probably the last thing they'll have to do to recover from a hellishly tough war. At the same time, today the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson, did not rule out that in the future classified briefings could be cancelled for the entire House of Representatives. Because obviously, there was a leak of information. And, in Johnson's opinion, this affects the functioning of the institutions. Let me remind you that earlier, Donald Trump, by his decision, revoked so-called security clearances, that is, access to classified materials, for a whole range of former officials, including President Biden, Secretary Blinken, and many, many others. After all, according to American rules, they could enjoy the privilege of having access to classified information even after leaving office. However, revoking access for sitting members of Congress could actually become an unprecedented move. And finally, I want to show you a video that the White House posted on its official Instagram page. It's a montage from the NATO summit set to a song that could be translated as Daddy's Home. Let me remind you that it was NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte who first called President Trump Daddy. He was commenting on Trump's statements and said something like, "Daddy has the right to use strong language." And obviously, the White House liked that comparison. Thank you, Alia. Well, we've heard an especially large number of unexpected song choices this week. Thank you for your story. GSN's correspondent in the United States, Olga Koshelenko. About the current mood in the White House after the strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities that took place almost a week ago.